our two main bones that come and articulate at the ankle or make up the ankle, right? We've got our tibia and our fibula that articulate with the foot calcaneus itself, right? Or the talus, rather, I guess I should say. As far as the tibia goes, we know where the tibial tuberosity is. We can follow the shaft of the tibia all the way down until it kind of disappears, and then we end up on that medial malleolus. Okay? Fibular head, again, this is something that we've already palpated before. We can't palpate the shaft of the fibula because it disappears underneath a bunch of muscles, right? But then all of a sudden it pops back out about 3/4 of the way down, and we have our lateral malleolus attached to the fibula. Okay? We can also palpate the calcaneus. We've all held on to that when we were measuring inversion, eversion of the rear foot, right? Depending on the patient, you might be able to palpate the talus itself, okay? So if we put her into a decent amount of plantar flexion, we might be able to feel right in between the two malleoli. You can actually feel that talus kind of push up against you, okay? So we can feel through there, come off both sides. We get some other structures in the way, but we should be able to at least feel a little bit of that talus. What's next? Metatarsals. It's tough to differentiate the tarsals themselves, so we can come down, we can get the metatarsals, and just go along the shaft of each metatarsal. The base of the fifth met is that nice bony prominence on the far lateral side of the foot, right out here. In some people it's more prominent than others. So make sure you get your hand, even if you can see it, we still want you to get your hands on it and palpate that fifth met, okay? Another bony prominence that you can typically palpate is going to be the navicular tuberosity, which is now on the medial side. So if you find that medial epicondyle and you just drop off, there'll be a little sulcus, and then all of a sudden you get this nice bony prominence that sticks out, and that's going to be your navicular tuberosity, okay? And that's it as far as bones go. As far as ligaments go, we've got our ATFL, or our on the lateral side. The ATFL is going to be the one that you can feel most prominent, and that's the one that's usually the one that gets injured the most as well, right? Or there's some sort of injury to it. So if we find the lateral malleolus, and then we just drop off kind of in this anterolateral direction, I guess it's anterolateral to begin with, but anyway, if we kind of just drop off in this anterior direction, then we can roll around on that lateral malleolus. We'll kind of hit and be able to feel each one of those ligaments on the lateral side. They're a little bit more separated than the medial side. The medial side, that deltoid ligament, all of them are right close to each other, and they end up just being this kind of broad fan of a ligament. The ATFL, you can kind of differentiate a little bit easier, especially than compared to the medial side. Again, we know that those fibers are going to be running in this direction, and so to palpate, we'll come off and we'll strum in the opposite direction, so we're going the opposite direction of the fibers themselves, and you can kind of feel that structure underneath your fingers, okay? The deltoid ligament, you'll kind of do the same thing. You'll find that medial malleolus, you'll drop off, and then just wrap around that anterior and inferior portion of that medial malleolus, and that's where that deltoid ligament is going to sit. Again, it's difficult to differentiate each different one just because they are so close. They end up just being one big ligament. Okay? Muscles. Gastroc and soleus, we talked about those with the knee. So hopefully you can palpate those pretty easily. Anterior tib, we haven't talked about this one as of yet, but can you roll those up? Yep. Because Amy's got an awesome anterior tib. Okay, we know where it sits. We can find the shin or the tibia. Okay, just lateral to that is where that anterior tib should be, a nice big muscle that sits right there. So she goes into dorsiflexion.
Wow.
What up, girl?
See? What'd I tell ya? It's awesome. Right? I don't know what she does, but it definitely works out. So that one should be relatively easy to find. So we're working with Amy. Okay.
On her heels.
Those are the only muscles.
Already endorsed flexion.
Walks on her heels a lot. Okay. As far as tendons go, again, these ones are, the ones that we have listed there are a little difficult to differentiate. Just know that on the medial side, we have our Tom, Dick, and Harry, okay? So our posterior tibialis, our tib posterior, and then our flexor digitorum longus, and then our flexor digitorum flexor hallucis longus, that's it, okay? And a lot of you were giving me weird looks, so I'm guessing they didn't hear that. And or did they hear that?
I don't know if
Oh, okay.
anatomy. I learned Tom, Dick, and Harry too.
Yeah, that's like from malleolus back, right? Like working from
Say
the
that again.
that's like working from the malleolus back.
Yeah, yeah. So the posterior tib or the tibialis posterior is going to be pretty much right up against the malleolus, and then you hit the flexor digitorum longus, and then the flexor hallucis longus. They're pretty tough to differentiate because they all kind of sit in relatively the same sheath, but you don't spend too much time. You can kind of differentiate them a little bit, but we're not going to necessarily worry about that. On the lateral side, then we've got our fibularis muscles. So the fibularis longus, the fibularis brevis, and then that's it. Yeah, just those two. Okay. If you want to get the muscles and see those tendons pop out, just have them do the motions, right? So for Tom, Dick, and Harry, just have your patient go into plantar flexion, forefoot inversion, excuse me, so forefoot adduction, and you should be able to see those tendons pop out just around that malleolus. And then for the fibularis longus and brevis, I'll do the same thing, just go into plantar flexion, but now abduction of the forefoot. And we should be able to see and kind of feel them pop out. Okay, so those are our tendons. And dorsal pedis and posterior tib artery. Dorsal pedis can be a little tough. This is the one that sits right on top.
I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
I usually say if
Maybe
you
it's just
come
'cause
up
I
right
got
up on that
gloves.
big bone, so if you come right up on here and then drop laterally,
Oh,
he's
there
right
it is.
there.
I'm too high.
Yeah, he's right there every time.
Okay.
So your most prominent bone on the top of the foot, drop off laterally. Keep those down.
I feel like that all the time.
I can't find it.
You might need the gloves.
Why don't you
Yeah,
kick
see,
off the
that's
gloves
why
and
I
find
don't
it?
wear gloves.
Yeah, just kick off and find it.
You heard it from Susan herself, that's why you don't wear gloves. Unless you're in the nursing home.
I'm not worried about her.
Thanks, Riley. No, I'm just kidding. If you're having trouble with your partner and you are okay with touching my foot, mine is extremely prominent and really easy to find.